Good morning, guys, or afternoon. I'm Diane. Welcome to Life Lived Alone. I wanted to talk about being a grandmother today. I wonder if you feel the same that I do. I'm sure you do. Why is it that we love our grandchildren so much and would do anything for them and anything to make them happy? For some reason, we seem to do more for our grandchildren than we did for our children. Do we love them more? I don't know. Feels like we do. I don't know. I just love my grandchildren. Anyway, when they were little, now I had 7. When they were little, my favorite thing to do was to pile up in bed with them or pile up on the sofa and read a book to them. And I loved to insert words like poop and pee and stuff like that. Yeah, it made them laugh. I mean, they got so tickled. I did it in the appropriate places. They thought it was so much fun. They loved for Gran to read to them. Or we would pile up on the couch, and they always said it. I can't remember a time when they didn't say it. They would say, "Gran, tell us a ghost story." And I'd come up with one. I had quite a few that were passed down through my family, which I wrote all of them down in a book, and I cannot find the book. I have searched high and low for that little blue book, and I can't find it. One day, I'm sure I'll run across it, but anyway. But when they were little, I'm talking about, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. I came up with these stories. And dinosaurs were pretty hot back then. So I made the stories about dinosaurs. So I even wrote them down. I think I came up with 6 different stories, and, it had a good lesson to learn at the end of the story. And I liked them so much, I, printed them real nicely and left a little space for a drawing. And my oldest son, Brandon, is quite a sketch artist. He's much better than the pictures I'm going to show you. He's very detailed in his drawings. Like one day he drew his feet with socks on, and you could even see the texture of the sock from a pencil drawing. I mean, he's pretty good. But anyway, I asked him to just quickly, I showed him all the characters in my books, and I handed him, it was a little notebook with sleeves, where I stuck the story in, and he would take the sleeve out, read that page, and draw something that went with the story. And I would read that to my grandkids, and they absolutely loved it. And I thought, what if I make some toys out of these characters and make a cave, the dinosaurs live in a cave and all of that stuff. So I bought a scroll saw. I think it was $100. And I started cutting out things with my scroll saw. I absolutely loved it. I've always been kind of crafty and inventive and, love to paint. So I'd get to paint all of these things, and so it was fun to me. So I decided to make each child a set for Christmas. Now, they did not know I was making these, because I had to read the story to them over and over and over. So they knew all the stories, all the characters, and I actually named most of the characters with a family name. Anyway, they loved it. And I put each set in a little child's suitcase, that pulled along with wheels. That was their Christmas gift from Gran that year. Now granted, I had one grandson who was probably at the time 16, 17. His name was Blaze. And he being my first grandson, I named the books after him. It was called Dino Blaze. It was like the adventures of Dino Blaze. So he was the blue dinosaur in every story. So anyway, he didn't get a set because he was too old. But actually his little girl, Eleanor, who is my great-granddaughter, has a set now. And I asked her mom to bring it to me so I could show it to you. So I have that set, and Ashley brought me a set that I made for Luke, who was a cowboy kid, you know, at 2 years old. He rode a bull that my son Brandon built for him out of wood, covered it with leather, and he would get on that thing and ride it all day long and fall off, you know. Me ride bull, fall off. That's what he said all the time. So I made him a barn with farm animals and horses. At the time they had horses. So that was his interest instead of the Dino Blaze. So anyway, I'm going to show you those toys right now before I proceed. Okay. Hey guys, we're in my kitchen now. I'm going to show you these. Here is a volcano, and it's got a cave attached to it. It's got water coming off of the mountain. It's got a fish in the water. I had such fun making these. They're just pieces of wood glued together. Okay, here is a big one. This is where Dino Blaze lived. It's bigger. And here is Dino Blaze. He's a blue dinosaur. He fits in the cave. Yeah. And up here on top of this mountain is a place where a pterodactyl lived named Ashy from Ashley. Yeah, here's some more waterfalls and some more fish. But isn't that cute as it could be? A long time ago, these were very special to my grandkids. Now, there was one mean dinosaur that lived nearby that they were not allowed to leave their property, their cave area, or they might get eaten by this big dinosaur who is called Pappy from my daddy. We all called him Pappy. Not that he was mean, he was the sweetest person in the world, but it was named Pappy in honor of him. Now, there's like a little bush that they could sit around. Looks tropical. Now this dinosaur is Chassie. Yeah, her name is Chassie. That's my daughter, my second daughter's name, Chassie. Now that's all that has survived over the past 20 years. There was probably 20 characters, all named from our family. Anyway, now the book, somehow my daughter Chassie got that book without my knowledge. And one year for Christmas, she took that book and had 3 stories printed in 2 different books and gave everyone one for Christmas as an heirloom to keep in our family. And here is one of them. It says Collection 1. It's called Dino Blaze. And it's got my name, and Dylan, my son, helped me write some of the stories. And it's got Brandon, my son, who did the drawings. I just want to show you a little bit. This is very special. It says, Christmas 2020, love Chassie and Derek. That's her husband. I mean, I cried. This was special to me. It was very, very special. Now here's a picture of some of the drawings that Brandon did. Can you see that it's raining and looks like a volcano might be erupting, or that might be ash falling from the volcano? I don't remember. But anyway, they're just so special. There's Dino Blaze and his best friend Rupert. I don't know where Rupert came from. I really don't. Now, after every story, I would make a list of the characters that were in the story. Like, here's a list of characters. And in my book, I actually had a drawing of them also. But like Chassis, the Chassis dinosaur is an ankylosaurus, slow-moving, armored scales with club-like tail, a plant eater. I wanted them to learn something while they were having fun with all the animals. Anyway, this was special, and I'm glad that they have kept them and passing them on, like to my little Eleanor. Okay, this one over here, I built a barn for Luke. Put a W on the top. His last name is Wilson. Okay, now they had horses at the time, so I've got a lot of horses. A lot of horses. These have a saddle on them. Got quite a few horses. I got a couple of cows. I had so much fun painting these and cutting these out. And it seems like a lot of the animals are also missing from this, which can be expected over the years. 20 years. Here's a bull. There's his face. Can you see the bull? Yeah. Okay. Horn. Okay. I've got 4 horses, a bull, and 2 cows left. But anyway, I just wanted to share that with you. That was one of the most fun things I've ever done with them. I did several more things I'm going to tell you about. Now, it is Saturday, and there are people around me mowing their lawns, so I hope you don't hear that. When my grandkids were, I don't know, maybe a couple of years after I made the toys out of wood, my daughter Ashley and I were actually flipping houses, and on one little bitty house, I made more than I had ever made in my life. So I decided to, because I love my grandkids more than I love myself, I decided to turn my backyard, which was not large, to turn it into a fun place for my grandkids. So, sorry. I started with fencing in the yard so they would be safe. There would be no dogs coming in to bother them or maybe bite them or whatever. I just wanted to know that they were fenced in when they were at my house. So if you remember any of my stories, you know my sister-in-law lived with us every weekend. And I could only do this on the weekend because I was sewing curtains and flipping houses, so I was very busy. But she helped me put up a fence. You know, you dig a hole, you put a pole in it, put cement in it, fill in the hole, keep going all the way around the house, put a board between each pole, then start screwing pieces of wood to it. It's pretty simple. My backyard was flat, so I didn't have to worry about anything being unlevel. So that was pretty easy. We got that done. And then my husband and I, this was the second time we remarried. We were together then. He and I built, and the sister-in-law, built a swing set out of wood, you know, from scratch. Yeah, we went from scratch. The internet wasn't that prevalent. We couldn't look for plans on the internet. We just did it, you know, and had to little platform up there with a slide coming off of it, all that kind of stuff. That's where we started. And then underneath we filled it in with bark, covered up the grass so that they wouldn't, get hurt or anything. So we kept going. Now this was totally me and my sister-in-law. And I think Blaze helped us. We dug a fish pond in my backyard. It was pretty big. It was pretty big. I actually built two, and I built a, maybe you could call it a pergola between the two, so it looked like one went under the pergola to the next fish pond, which it really didn't. But it looked like it did. So you could walk across a bridge to get to over the little fish pond into the pergola, and there was chairs and a table, and it was nice and cool. It had a little slats over the top to keep the sun off the inside. It was very nice. And they love to do that. They love to watch the fish. They love to, feed the fish. It was fun for them. And then I couldn't afford a pool, which I had had one earlier in my life, and my mom had a pool, but I couldn't afford a pool, so I bought a big round one at Walmart. I think it was $800 back then. It was pretty big. So my sister-in-law and I put it up, and then we built a deck on around half of it, where you could sit up there in chairs in the sun and watch the kids swim and all that kind of thing. And behind the deck was another long pergola that was about, 5 feet wide. Now under that pergola, my husband helped with this. We built a bull on chains that had these springs on the chains, and it was made from a drum, and you put water in it so that it will slosh back and forth, make the movement of the bull. Quinn, Ashley's mowing the yard, and she's getting close. I maybe have to stop for a minute. Anyway, that was the bull riding area, and Luke loved it. There was a rope around the barrel that he could hang on to and rock back and forth, and we could even stand behind him and pull on the springs. Okay, I'll be right back. The funny thing is, Chloe is inside the fence. I hope she doesn't run over him. Her. Anyway, back to the area in the backyard. Well, we had a little utility building in a corner back there. So in front of the utility building, on the front door, I painted like a door that was open, but it really wasn't, and a horse head was looking out. I thought that would be fun. Anyway, we built a little putt-putt. It had like 6 or 8 holes, 8 I think. It was fun. They absolutely loved that. It just took some thought to figure out how to build it and make it fun. But hey, Ashley. Anyway, the putt-putt was fun. My husband helped me with that. Yeah, he knew more about golf and the hole and all that stuff than I did, but it turned out great. It turned out great. Let me see. I don't want to forget anything. Oh, they loved that area. They loved to come and see Gran. That was my intention. I want to go see Gran. I loved keeping my grandkids. Yeah. Now, my daughter, my youngest daughter, Chassie, moved off to college. Now, remember, I was flipping houses, so she went to Florence, Alabama, to college. I bought a house over there. I flipped it, And she lived there, yeah, for 2 years while she finished college. So that was like free room and board. You know what I mean? It cost less to buy a house and let her live there than to rent an apartment or something. Because after she got through with college, her actually boyfriend bought the house for me. They moved in together and got married. They've been together for, I don't know, 12 years. Anyway, she was gone. She had a big room in our house. I decided to turn that room into like an arcade for my grandkids for Christmas. Now, I would not let them go in there. It was forbidden. They knew I was doing something in there, but they did not know what I was doing. So at Christmas, I had 7 grandkids. Instead of spending, well, at the time, I probably spent $200 a piece. I was flipping houses, remember that. So that's $1,400. I had rather, I probably didn't spend that much. Maybe $125 a piece. But I could use that money and turn that area into an arcade for everyone and make the money go further. So that's what I did. And boy, at Christmas, I said, okay, kids, when we were opening presents, I said, your gift from me is in Chassie's room. You may now enter. And they went running in there, and oh my gosh, they went nuts. I had a pinball machine. I can't even remember what all was in there. I really cannot pull it out of my brain. But she had a big room, so it was a lot of stuff. And they loved that area. So yeah, I did that for them. They used it many, many years until 2008 when I moved to my new house. Then the only thing I did there was I built a big tree house for them, which is still standing. I can see it from my art room every day. It's still there. It's very nice. And I did this one by myself because I was by myself. I built a very small putt-putt. Of course, I had cement guys to come and pour the cement. But I basically built it myself. And they, because, that I hated that they didn't have all of their stuff anymore to play with. But anyway, guys, I'm not bragging on myself for doing what I've done for my grandkids. I have no regrets for what I did. When I moved in this house next door, before I moved in my tiny house, I did not have the money to do anything extravagant. So I would have these spend the night parties, and most of the little ones, I think there was 5 of them at the time, we would have a big party. They would cook their own pizza, have a painting contest. I'd buy cheap canvases from Hobby Lobby, and they would paint, and we'd always have a dance contest. And then later in the evening, we'd all hop in the van and go hunt ghosts. That was my thing. Gran is the one who tells ghost stories. So then we'd get back home and we'd all pile up together and tell ghost stories. We had a ball. That was the most fun of my life, is being with my grandchildren and doing things with my grandchildren and making my grandchildren happy. But long story short, I did not have to spend any of that money. I didn't. What they really wanted from me was my love, my warmth, and my time that I spent with them. When they were at my house, I was with them 100%. I gave them everything I had in me to give. And they knew that I loved them dearly. They never questioned my love. And I think that's what it's all about. So really and truly, all those grandkids want, all they want is a simple story cuddled up in grandma's arms. I mean, that's it. Yeah. So, be a grandmother, guys. Time's all they want. Love's coming your way.